Okay, 2.4. Okay, now you're going to be timesing and dividing, okay? Thing you need to write in this first box, a negative times a negative is a positive, okay? A positive times a negative is a negative. We don't use a number line, so you put your number line away, okay? Now the first part of the batch says tell whether the answer is positive or negative. You don't have to tell the answer, read the directions. So -3, 10. One thing, we need to put a times sign right there, okay? So a negative times a positive, that's a negative, okay? So negative, just put negative. Okay, -5, -6, that's a times with the sign. Negative times a negative is a positive, okay? So you write the word positive, and that's how you type your answer. Okay, next one, 8 with -7, that's times -7. So it's a positive times a negative is a negative, so negative. Then we have -6 and 10, that's a times. That's a negative times a positive. Remember, when we have a positive times a negative, that's a negative. And that's all you do for that. Okay. Now you need to find the actual product. You can use a calculator, that's fine. So I got -7, -6, that's multiplication. Negative times a negative is a positive, and then 7 times 6 on a calculator is 42. Okay, next one, 4, -2. So that means 4 times, the parentheses means times, okay? Positive times a negative is always a negative, and 4 times 2 is 8. Next one, 8. -1/3. Remember, when I have a number right outside of parentheses, that means multiplication. Okay, 2 parentheses together means a times dot, and a number outside of a parentheses needs a times dot. Okay, so positive times a negative is a negative. Now I know it's a fraction, but you can use a calculator. 8 times -1, and then you hit this ABC button, 3. -2 2/3. Okay, -1/2 and 7. When I have a number outside of parentheses, that means multiplication. Okay, negative times a positive is a negative. When you have a negative times a positive, always. Now I take 1ABC2 times 7. I got 3 1/2. Half of 7. Okay, -2/7, -1/4. Again, the number sits right outside the parentheses. That means times. So negative times a negative is a positive. And then 2ABC7 times 1ABC4 is 1/14. Okay, 1/14. Okay, -8, -2, that's what the thing says. Again, with that number, I need a sign between the number and the parentheses. It's times, okay? So negative times a negative is 8. That's not a minus. The number in the parentheses is a times. Negative times a negative is a positive. 8 times 2 is 16. Okay, 4, -6. Again, that number in the parentheses, that does not count as a minus, okay? When the number's right against a parentheses, it means times. Positive times negative is negative. 4 times 6 is 24. Okay, 12, -4. Again, the operator, because the 12 leans against a parentheses, means times. Positive times a negative is a negative. 12 times 4 is 48. Okay. Negative 10, negative 1,000. Okay, so the number hugs against the parentheses. That means we put a times dot. Okay. Negative times a negative is a positive, and 10 times 1,000 is 10,000. Okay, then we got several more. Okay, negative 3, negative 5. Again, that is not negative 3 minus 5. When I have a number leaning against a parentheses, I put a times dot. Negative times a negative is a positive, 15. Okay. All right, 14, negative 10. So it's against the parentheses, it means times. Positive times a negative is a negative. 14 times 10 is 140. Negative 9, negative 2. Again, put the operation between the number and parentheses. Negative times a negative is a positive, 18. 9 times 2. 4, negative 9. Again, when I have two parentheses right together, kind of back to back with no sign, that means times as well. So positive times a negative is a negative, and 4 times 9 is 36. That's the 2 times you put a dot when you see parentheses. When you got a number leaning outside with nothing between them, and when we have two parentheses right together. Okay. Negative 3, negative 6. There's that number against the parentheses with no sign, so we put our dot. Negative times a negative is a positive. 3 times 6 is 18. Negative 2, negative 5. Negative times a negative is a positive. 2 times 5 is 10. Number against the parentheses, positive times a negative is a negative. 6 times 4 is 24.